Matt Lodi is standing by. Boy, the Steelers sucked yesterday too, huh?
You know, I have an idea. Maybe the Browns could get in a division with Oakland. How about Tampa Bay and the Jets?
Hey, Matt, do you realize how bad
we can get in then, baby?
Do you know how bad the Steelers sucked before we were all born?
Yeah,
they would have liked to have played with Oakland too at one point. It was Dick Shiner, man. Dick Shiner ruined everything.
You're really breaking the rules.
What? No, Dick Shiner, man. It's all Dick Shiner's fault.
Lodi, what the heck happened with the Steelers yesterday? New Orleans looked like it was 2010. They were running up and down the field like there was no defense.
Well, there is a serious issue in Pittsburgh right now, and that is a lack of defense. And even though Ike Taylor and Troy Polamalu both got back in the lineup yesterday, this team clearly has major issues when it comes to defense. And I think we've seen a real another lack of intensity at home and another lack of intensity against a sub-500 team. And, you know, I was thinking about this yesterday. Do you realize if this team would have beat the Bums, they would actually beat 10 wins already? And that's sad to think about because, you know, realistically, we've seen this team beat Indianapolis. We've seen this team beat Houston, beat Baltimore. You know, they've beaten some decent teams, beat the Browns on opening day, of course. So if this team would have been able to take care of business against some bad teams, and when I say bad teams, I mean Tampa Bay, the Jets, and New Orleans at home, which I think everybody looked at as a very winnable game, this team would be 10-2, and they would have been watching that Green Bay-New England game yesterday thinking with New England losing, this team would have an opportunity to possibly get a bye week. Now, not only have they kind of lost control of their own destiny, they basically are in must-win situations the next couple weeks against teams like Kansas City at home and then, of course, Cincinnati, who they do get to play twice. So, in a way, they do still control their own destiny in that regard. But they have a lot of work to do. And I think right now thinking that this team is a playoff team is, you know, pretty unrealistic right now based on how they've played, especially against bad teams.
Hey, Matt, give me the Steeler perspective on the Browns' schizophrenia at quarterback.
Well, I mean, come on, guys. I mean, I think we all knew that this was going to happen at some point. I mean, I like Brian Hoyer as an individual. He's a high-class guy. But I think at the same time, you don't go drafting a guy in the first round and think that you're not going to see him the whole season. I think that we knew, at least based on the last 3 weeks. I mean, if this team wouldn't have come back against Atlanta a week ago, this might have happened in the first quarter yesterday, for all we know. I think that, you know, Brian has unfortunately kind of gone backwards since that Cincinnati game. Certainly the Houston game was the start of it. But, you know, Atlanta a week ago, you know, they were able to make some plays late, you know, after Mike Smith had the brain cramp and called the timeout, when really they could have won the game on pretty much the last play if they would have played the clock right. And then yesterday, I mean, Buffalo's got a pretty good defense, but let's be realistic. I mean, they're not even close to being as good of a defense as we've seen out of some of these other teams this year. So from the Hoyer perspective, if you're a Hoyer supporter, unfortunately, you've got to look at the statistics and go, this guy just hasn't played well the last 3 weeks. And I think it is time to give Johnny a chance. And I watched you guys on Sports Sunday last night, and I do agree with Andre that they are going to go with Johnny this week. I don't agree with Jamel White, who said that they should go back to Hoyer for another week and then, you know, have him on a short leash. I think they ought to go with Johnny because, you know what? You pretty much do realize that right now with 7 wins, you've got to win the last 4 to have any opportunity to get into the postseason. And I think with home games against Cincinnati, who you know is going to want to come into Cleveland and play much better, a home game against the Colts, and then road games at Carolina and, of course, at Baltimore the final week, that it's going to be, I don't want to say impossible, but it's going to be really, really difficult for this team to make the postseason. So I think you do have to give the young kid a chance and see what you have because you know what? If you played Johnny the last 4 weeks and he struggles, then you've got to wonder, now what do you do at the quarterback position? I don't think you're going to bring Brian back anyway, but, you know, you got to give Johnny an opportunity to see what he truly can do in a full game, and I think that'll come next week against Indianapolis.
2 things I want to go to. You mentioned the Steelers losing to the Bums.
Right.
And how they could have the division wrapped up. We could have you on as the Bengals analyst to say that, the Browns analyst, and the Ravens analyst. You could, you know what I mean? You could actually say that, which I find crazy. All 4 of these teams, we could sit here and say if they would have took care of business against the teams they were supposed to take care of business of, they would be sitting at top of the AFC North going, who will we play in the first weekend of the playoffs at our place? I don't think, you know, for everybody bragging across the country about how great the AFC North has been, and it is with record-wise, they've taken advantage of the NFC South. They haven't taken advantage of beating the teams they should beat. It's amazing that all 4 of these teams have done this to themselves.
Well, it's also a matter, too, Andre, as you see it, week in and week out, there's just major inconsistencies with all four ball clubs. I mean, the Ravens have shown it. The Steelers certainly have shown it, especially defensively. The Browns have shown it at times. And Cincinnati even has shown it. I mean, realistically, they could have very easily lost that game yesterday. They were down 10-0, and the Buccaneers were driving late. And if it not were for a disputed penalty, they very easily could have kicked a field goal and won that game 16-14. The Browns lose to a 2-win Jaguars team. The Steelers lose to the Buccaneers and Jets. The Ravens have not certainly looked great all season long. They've been up and down very much so. So realistically, you're right, Andre. Any team that makes the playoffs from this division, to me right now, is probably one and done. I think I saw earlier in the day yesterday or last week or at some point leading up to the games yesterday that right now the Bengals, winning the division would take on San Diego in the wild card game in Cincinnati. I don't have any faith right now that Cincinnati would win that football game, just like a year ago. So there's major inconsistencies with this division all the way around. And, I think it shows on a day like yesterday. Baltimore loses in the last minute. Cincinnati barely beats Tampa Bay. The Browns get pretty much beat up in Buffalo. And the Steelers can't stop anybody, and they lose at home to a Saints team that played 6 days ago and got beat at home by the Ravens. So it really does show inconsistencies across the board.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week. Always appreciate your time. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Take
All
care,
right,
buddy.
we'll talk to you soon. How do you want to play this here? Then
He hit on. I think this is, and look, I've said it. I've said that I think Manziel will start. But I think, and I'm not beating up on Lodi, and I know wherever we're going next, we'll go. We're talking out of both sides. He's right. He goes, they drafted a guy in the first round. You draft a guy in the first round to play him in the first round, and we would agree with that. But not when you're in a playoff race, right? Well, does that change the rules?
I'll go back to. Let me finish what I'm saying. Then we'll go over to you. They're freaking out over there. It's the whole same old Browns to me. That's my whole issue that I have right now. And in a normal situation, yesterday is typical. Your starting quarterback isn't doing well. You bring your backup in. You let him play for a little bit, and then you go back to your starter next week. And then you think about it at the end of the season. If you're a team that's in a playoff hunt, if you're not in the hunt and you're giving up on the playoffs, then you go to your rookie quarterback.
Problem.
Nobody wants to understand that Johnny Manziel's still a rookie. I mean, I don't know why that is such a we live in this instant gratification world where it's got to happen now. It's RG3. Where's RG3 right now?
Exactly.
It's instant gratification.
Well, Brian Hoyer's a backup.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just I'm not. I don't feel that way.
Right.
I'm saying that to you because
he's been labeled a backup.
Right.
And now there are some people in this league that didn't think he was a backup.
All right.
And Mike Lombardi was that guy.
And he's been right so far. That this guy can play. He can play. He can play.
He's 10-4 as a starter going into yesterday's game.
Here's the thing I'll say, and I'm going to stand. Even though I think Manziel's starting next week, I'll say this for Brian Hoyer: when everybody else does their job pretty well, he does his job pretty well.
Right.
Is Manziel good enough? Here's a question.
Well, we're going to get to find out.
Well, is Manziel good enough to make up for all the problems they have on this team? Because that's really what you're asking. This isn't about because if they can't run the football. If they can't pass block against whatever packages they're going against, if Josh Gordon can't run his patterns correctly and run through a pattern and help his quarterback, we're sitting here next week with another loss, no matter if it's 2 or if it's Brian Hoyer.
But we're going to see what he has. Look, I think Johnny Manziel has some magic. I get it. I don't have any problem with that, and I do want to see what Johnny Manziel can do. But I want to be out of the playoffs before. And we saw what the North was about yesterday. I don't know.
I hear you.
You dance with the girl you brought to the dance. That's
if they put up the running numbers they put up yesterday against Indianapolis.
8 yards in the third quarter. That was impressive.
Right. If they put up the rushing yards they put up yesterday, Johnny will get treated like a rag doll in the fourth quarter next week.
He got treated like a rag doll in the second series yesterday. Go, Eric, the referee, because we're getting
one quick question for you guys.
Yeah.
The Browns have 2 draft picks next year. There's a lot of great quarterbacks coming out. I mean,
let's talk about that another show.
I love Eric.
It's, you're way ahead of
Eric.
I do. We're going to go to Tim Couch here.
A lot of people are on him.
If Jameis Winston drops to like 20, you run up there quietly. And
my point is, do the Browns want to see Manziel in these 4 games to maybe think, hey, there's a lot of great quarterbacks. We got a lot of great assets next year.
They drafted him in the first round. He's not going anywhere.
They're going to give him a lead.
His contract is there. They're going to give Johnny Manziel a shot. They're not drafting a quarterback in the first round next year. Fair? Fair?
Fair.
All right. Hey, this is Tim Couch. He'll be with us in 2 seconds here. We are going to go to Craig Lindell, who's standing by.
Craig!
Craig, this is your new house.
Look at
Look at that.
Craig got a job. Look at Craig's house.
Is this the new man cave?
Oh, this is the new man cave, and nothing is set up. Everything's in pieces on the floor behind me, but I'm here.
We like the old man cave. Welcome back from vacation.
Yes.
All right, just give us your thoughts on what's going on with the Browns and what you're going to have on waitingfornextyear.com.
Oh, the same old Browns, as you've been saying, Andy. This thing boggles my mind, just because the timing. Go to Manziel, fine. The timing of this couldn't be worse. The Browns have a home game next week against a team that isn't a bad matchup. The Colts, could score lots and lots of points, but so could the Browns on that defense. And the best possible chance that the Browns would have next week, I think, is with Brian Hoyer against that Colts defense at home. But now they've unleashed Manziel on the road right before it. That stadium is going to be an absolute nightmare next week, if no matter who they start.
Craig, I think the statement that Andy's been using and you said is the same old Browns. The fans are so used to this, Craig, that this has become abnormal has become normal. Like, this isn't normal, Craig. In Pittsburgh today, they're not doing dogs on a run, Steelers on a run going, we better get that Brad Gradkowski ready, or Bruce Gradkowski. They're going, let's get Roethlisberger ready.
We better get Sally Brodkowski ready.
Yeah, they're not doing that. They're not saying in Cincinnati, let's get Jason Campbell warmed up. They're going, put the best thing around our starting quarterback so we can win this division. Here, because we're same old Browns, we're going, get that guy out of here. Give me a new quarterback. And it's natural. And nobody's fighting. On Twitter right now, we're idiots because we're going, let's have a little patience.
Yeah, and here's the other thing.
No, just you're an idiot.
Give me the person who's going to say that this is the Browns' benefit because nobody knows what they're going to do, whether it's Johnny Manziel or Brian Hoyer. They've got the tricks in the bag. It's not true. The Browns need to be prepared and ready. This is a playoff run. I know the numbers don't look good right now, but they have a winning record. They need to win out. Your best chance to do that. This next Colts game is the only one that mattered. This was Brian Hoyer's last chance, no matter what. And so they pulled the trigger a little bit early on Manziel, if you ask me, because this was the natural place. If they lost in Buffalo and then lost in Indianapolis, well, then naturally you're definitely going to start Manziel for the next two games, I think. But now they've really, for one game, the all-important game, the most important game of the season against Indianapolis at home, they've now kind of screwed themselves.
All right, Craig, we're super behind here. Hang on one second. Listen, tell us what's going on waitingfornextyear.com and what we can read today and what's going on with you.
All the same old winners and losers and reaction to yesterday's game.
What are your thoughts quickly on Josh Gordon?
I think that Josh Gordon probably cost Brian Hoyer a couple of interceptions, even though Brian Hoyer didn't play very well. He just does not look on the same page. He's explosive on those screens and everything else, but anything down the field, anything that requires even a 3 second or a 2.5 seconds, he just doesn't seem to be making the right reads. I don't know.
And can you run through a pattern and help your quarterback out, Josh Gordon? Jeez, help your guys out. He's been pathetic to me at times, and I know I'm going to get killed for it. You got to play hard for your quarterback, man. Like when they call a slant, you got to run a slant. Whether the safety comes up in front of you, the linebacker or not, run your darn pattern. Run through it. Because even if the ball doesn't go to you, it gets somebody else open. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just done with the whole situation. With
Craig, I do want to show you one thing, okay? So let's look at your background that you have there. Now look at Tim Couch's background back there. Look how well everything is strategically placed. Look what you now have to aspire to.
I'm going to have to go to the memorabilia store, I think.
Well, first we got to start with the two lamps in the corner. That's one of the issues we're having right now. Interior design was not
what
my
did you
forte.
do? Like, is that what you
I don't know. It's just look at the contrast between the back. But Craig, you're only a week into this house, right?
Yeah, I'm going to need to win some more trophies and things, I think. Good on you, Tim.
Yeah, all those boxes in the right look good, though. I like it. It seems like you're a busy man with a lot going on.
All right, Craig, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. Waitingfornextyear.com. Make sure you read it each and every day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, now let's go back to Tim. Tim, we had a really interesting conversation with Jamel White yesterday, and he's been doing the Sunday show with us for a little while. He said that, and should I even bring this up or not? It's a really good tribute to you.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
he was good to you.
And he just said that when we had quarterback controversy when you were here and you were looking at Kelly Holcomb, he said you would go into the huddle, everybody knew what was going on, there was no questions, there was no bitching, there was no fighting going on in the huddle. Kelly would come in and guys would be like, you need to get me the damn ball. So he gave you a great...
he just said that he basically said, and this isn't beating up Kelly, he just said that it was obvious, Tim, that to the other 10 guys in the huddle, they wanted you to be out there, and when the other guy wasn't out there, that it was chaos in the huddle.
Right. Yeah, that's a great compliment, and it really is, and that's how I think Brian feels right now. That this is it. When Brian said after the game, I think this is my football team. I think that's what he means. He understands that he knows that he has the belief of the guys in the huddle that they want him in there, and they know that he gives them the best chance to win the football game, and I think that's where it's at right now. Even though as poorly as he has played, and I'll be the first to admit that over the last few weeks he has played poorly. But I still think he gives them the best chance to win, and he has the confidence of the veterans in that huddle. And I think they believe they've seen him, win games that they probably shouldn't have won this year because of Brian Hoyer. Johnny Manziel not going to win some of those games that Brian has won late in football games, the plays that he's made throughout the season. That's what gives the guys the belief in Brian right now, that he can come in and no matter what situation, no matter how much pressure he's under, to go out and perform, which he is now more than ever, that I think they still believe that he can go out and get it done.
Am I too hard on Josh Gordon? I would trust you more than what I see as a guy, though, that does not help his quarterback. He half-asses it on plays, doesn't run through his routes. If I was a quarterback, I would have problems playing with Josh Gordon.
Yeah, I agree with you. I see the same things that you see. No matter what, no matter if you're the backside of a route or you're the main guy on a particular play, you got to go 100. You got to go 100%. You got to go full speed because the quarterback may come to you. I think sometimes that Josh is just guessing. Well, just by coverage, it doesn't look like Brian's going to come to me on this play, so let me just kind of go through the route, 75%. And you made a great point, Ray, that even if you're not getting the ball, run through the route because you're going to pull a linebacker inside. It opens up something on the outside for another receiver or whatever it may be. And then a lot of times, we see Brian, especially in the Atlanta game a couple times, he threw the ball up to Josh saying, okay, you're my big wide out. Let's go up and make a play. It's one-on-one. I trust you that at worst you're going to knock the ball down for me. And Josh didn't even go up and make an effort on the one in the end zone against Atlanta a couple weeks ago. You're really trusting your guy, and you have belief in him that he's going to take care of you in that situation. And no doubt about it, Josh has let him down a few times this year.
All right, for a fun little test, if you want to, go back, and I'm telling everybody, and Kenny's back in now too. So Kenny Rota's going to join us. We're going to do grade the team from yesterday. I want everyone to go back and watch Johnny Manziel's touchdown run yesterday, and I want you to watch Josh Gordon. Did you see what he did?
No, he walked.
I want you to go back and watch it. So, and I'll just kind of lay it out for you guys. Kenny, did you catch it? Did you watch this? I see you.
I did not, but I have it on my DVR, so when we're done, I'll go look at it.
Go back and watch it, and what you'll see is Manziel is clearly going to run the ball. He gets back to the line of scrimmage, and as he's crossing the line of scrimmage, Gordon is standing at the top of the screen waving his arms, like throw me the ball. Go back and watch it. I was floored yesterday when I saw it. All right, let's do grade the team here. Let's go to Eric, the referee. Where are we starting today? As if I don't know.
We'll start at quarterback, but one quick question for you guys first. If you're Mike Pettin, do you name the quarterback on Wednesday, or do you wait a little bit, give the Colts something extra to think about? Or do you want the Browns to know in the locker room who your starting quarterback is?
I'm a big fan of ripping the rearview mirror out and worrying about your own team. I think he needs to set the stage on Wednesday and let this team move forward. Because Manziel had no reps with the first team last week. If you're going to do it, just get it done. What do you think?
I'm completely with you. Matter of fact, Tuesday night, the quarterbacks know who's starting. I would call Johnny and I would call Brian. I'd put them together and say, this is what's happening. When you walk in here tomorrow, you're the guy, and act like it. That whole let's scare them, that's some high school stuff. That don't work on the big leagues.
Tim, your thoughts on that?
I agree with you guys. I think you make a decision. You let everyone on the team know who's your quarterback, because that's the one position on the field where guys need to know who their leader is going to be and who they're going to rally around. And you need to name that early. I don't think it does. I don't think it gives you really any benefit of waiting till later in the week, because you got to get someone ready to play, and guys are going to see that throughout the week in practice who's taking the most reps. So they're going to know. So I don't think there's really any benefit to holding on to that information.
Kenny?
What he said.
I kind of feel like I'm on the Brady Bunch
Why
here.
ask me? He went through it. He lived it. I don't need to say anything.
I felt when I woke up this morning, I go, man, we got to ask Tim stuff. We got to go back 10 years, 11 years, because Tim's been through this. He knows what it's like. It's amazing.
All right.
Same old Browns,
Are
right?
we starting
You
at
keep saying
quarterback?
to me,
It is.
and
It's
you're
same old
right.
Browns.
Yes, grade the quarterback, Brian Hoyer, 18 to 30 yesterday, 192 yards and 2 interceptions.
All right, let's go to Andre. We were the most
Yeah, how are we
optimistic
not
on this.
optimistic at D's?
Because
Wow.
I think I was watching all the other mistakes other people made. Look, Brian didn't have it yesterday. Again, it's been a couple weeks, and he was a D performance yesterday. And D minus or F. I think you can go in any direction on this thing.
It was a fail.
It was. But again, the one thing I'll wonder, and again, you're down 20-3. If you would have given him 9 minutes at the end of the game, what would have happened?
Could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
I'm going to say something. I like Brian. I feel like his attitude he was defeated yesterday. He really was, and that's the part. If I'm Mike Pettin, I really got to look in. I got to sit down with Brian Hoyer and go, hey man, regardless how bad it is, I need you to be the one guy that gets up and snaps with it and is over this. You got to quit beating yourself up.
Well, that's true. I got to play better. That's what I kept thinking about, too, when he made the switch yesterday, is if you're Mike Pettin, do you want to hear Brian Hoyer in the press conference say, I have to play better again in another press conference?
No.
That was the one thing that was in the back. And I said it to my dad at the time when they were down 23. I go, Dad, they're probably going to put Manziel in here. My dad's like, he hasn't put Manziel in all year. What makes you think he's going to do it now? And I'm like, oh, maybe you're right. But I had a gut yesterday. They were going with Manziel, too. Let's stay the optimistic route here. And let's go with Tim, who also gave a D.
Yeah, I gave him a D minus as well, guys. He just didn't play well, and there's a lot of factors that went into that. They couldn't run the football whatsoever. He didn't have a lot of time to throw the football when he was trying to get the ball down the field, but he forced a lot of throws. I think his decision-making, early in the season, he was getting rid of the football so quick and going to the right spot with the football almost every time. And now we see his decision-making slowed a little bit. He's forcing throws into Josh, and he's inaccurate. He's only completing 50% of his throws over the last few weeks. So it was a D for me. He didn't play well. The worst performance of the year so far for Brian.
All right, Kenny, I'm shocked you gave him an F. Shocked.
How can you not? I mean, let's be honest. 10 points as a team from both quarterbacks, right? You had 3 turnovers on offense, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble that should have been a fumble for a touchdown. But I don't know what the referees were looking at with Johnny Manziel on that arm coming forward thing. So just
ratings. They were looking at ratings
yesterday, and that's the bottom line.
He's right.
You think ratings? I don't know how that wasn't a fumble.
Yeah, it was a fumble.
You got to be kidding me.
It was definitely a fumble.
I love when they make
The
up
ball
rules as
came-
you go along.
Oh, hey, wait, we got Kenny now. It was the ladies' man, our favorite referee yesterday, Kenny. He was awful.
I mean, what was that? What did Roger Goodell call and say, hey, don't rule that a fumble so we can build the hype up around Johnny Manziel?
Absolutely.
That was an incomplete pass. How is that not a fumble yesterday?
The
Raiders
question
are
is,
asking
was
the
he
same
using
thing
the
a
same
couple years
line
ago.
Jimmy Haslam was using to get to Pettin to change quarterbacks at that point?
No comment. You're gonna
Tim, would you ever put it past a member of upper management to get into a head coach's headset during a game?
During the game, I don't know if that would happen during the game. I think, during the week, maybe, after the game, something like that, they may make some comments, some suggestions. But, during the game, maybe Jerry Jones would be about the only owner I could think of that would possibly do that during the game. But, I don't see it happening.
All right, I'm just saying. Ray Farmer?
Stop it.
All right. I just think it's fun to talk about. Okay, go ahead. What do you got? What's next?
Browns running backs, 26 carries for 74 yards, 2.8 yards average. That's with Johnny Manziel having 13 of those yards. And then you got the horrible fumble by Terrence.
Terrence West should be inactive next week. Honestly, if he wants to have some credibility with his team, Terrence West's ass has got to sit. It's no use in playing him. He doesn't protect the football. And when you have the football, you're carrying around Joe Thomas's paycheck. You're carrying around the paycheck for the entire team. He shouldn't play next week.
All right, here's why I gave him an F. They sucked. They didn't run the ball very well yesterday. They didn't block. and you have a fullback whose only responsibility is to hit a man on a play and go back and watch the touchdown from yesterday, the fumble touchdown. Not even close.
Just watched the guy.
Not even close. So that's why I gave him an F. Tim, you were the optimistic one here.
Yeah, D-. It's probably an F. It was bad all the way around. And, the running backs really didn't have a chance. Crowell couldn't get anything going on the ground. West was just too lackadaisical, as you guys mentioned, with the football, just not taking care of it. But the offensive line really disappointed me yesterday. I thought Joe Thomas, for the first time in his career, probably had a really poor football game. I think they threw 3 flags at him for holding. He was a false start one time. So I just didn't think they played well as an entire group. So it was D- for me.
Kenny, you and I see eye to eye on this one.
Absolutely, an F. You laid it out, Andy. The blocking yesterday, the one fumble, then the other fumble that should have, they got a break because it was a forearm touchdown. And when you're near the goal line, you got to protect the football. And they just did not perform well yesterday. They didn't make an impact. There are times when the line isn't blocking, you need a running back to make a play, and that supposedly is what Isaiah Crowell brings to the table. And I didn't see any of that yesterday like we saw last week or 2 weeks ago. So for me, that unit got an F.
Kenny, as a running back, you can't make a play when the coach is calling sweeps.